Khammam districts. My name is B. Veerababu, working as a PGT in Gattipelli Model School, Telangana Model School. I am very happy to join in this group and as a resource person. So in the previous class, we learned about the making of India's independent constitution. In that, we know that what is the introduction of this class. The Indian Constitution is known as the biggest written constitution in the world.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Mobile lens ఒకటి క్లీన్ చేయండి సార్. మొబైల్ లెన్స్ మీద ఏదో డస్ట్ ఉంది.
Now, sir.
Not up to the mark. Little bit.
ఇంకొంచెం ఉంది సార్. ఇంకొంచెం ఉంది.
Little bit, sir. Veerababu sir. Yeah, please proceed. Right, please proceed.
Hello, sir.
Okay, sir. Please proceed.
Is it clear to?
Okay. It is clear. Please proceed. It is clear. Please proceed.
Okay, sir. So, in the previous class, we learned about the what is the introduction of the Indian Constitution and how it was made by the Constituent Assembly. So, already we know that the 1935 Indian Government Act is the main sources of the Indian Constitution, and the Cripps Mission suggestions and Cabinet Mission suggestions, all are these we utilize how to build the Indian Constitution for the nation of the country. So in the previous class, we learned about the basic structure of Indian Constitution and basic features of Indian Constitution. In that preamble is the first page of the Indian Constitution, and it is the introduction of the Indian Constitution. The whole concept of the Constitution, the constituent members mentioned in the preamble, and declared India as a sovereign, secular, socialistic, democratic, and republic country. So in that we learned about the basic features of the Indian Constitution. In that preamble, unitary and federal system, rigid and flexible constitution, parliamentary system and federal system, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles of state policy, unitary system, single citizenship, and the uniform Union Public Service Commission hold the nation, and integrated judiciary system, Panchayati Raj system, and like this all the basic features of the Indian Constitution. So today's class is why the Indian constituent members adopted the parliamentary system and what is the reason. In the constitutional debate, the drafting committee chairman Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar gave the explanation why Indians, the Constituent Assembly, adopted the system of parliamentary system. Already we know the introduction of the parliamentary system. Parliamentary form of government. So, Britain is the mother of the parliamentary form of government system, but the Indian constituent members, we are not taken fully and completely Britain parliamentary form of government system. So, in that parliamentary form of government system, main concept is the real executive is one person and nominal executive is one person. So who is the real executive? The real executive is the Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers. The Prime Minister headed the cabinet ministries, also known as the Council of Ministers. So the Council of Ministers are enjoying the real powers through the Parliament, and the nominal power vested in the hands of President. Generally, purely the parliamentary form of government system followed by the British. Here in the Britain, king or queen is nominal. King or queen. But India adopted British parliamentary system. At the same time, we adapted some features of federal system also. So here concept is India followed the parliamentary form of government system, but not fully. That means it is not complete Britain constitution. So Britain constitution means the nominal head is king or queen. The prime minister and his cabinet ministers are called the real executives. All powers vested in the powers of council of ministers. But Indian constitution mixed British parliamentary system and American federal system and Canadian federal system also. The real parliamentary form of government system followed nominal executive is one person, real executive is one person. These two members are members in the parliament. India followed the parliamentary form of government system, but the president of India is not a nominal. The president of India is not a nominal. At the time of emergency, he enjoyed the powers of real executives. The prime minister and the cabinet ministers, that means the council of ministers, they enjoyed the powers in common time. But at the time of emergency, the president enjoyed all powers. So we taken the American Constitution, Canadian Constitution, at the same time British Constitution also. We mixed the parliamentary form of government system and the presidential form of government system. Generally, President of India is head of the country. He is the head of the constitution. He is the head of the real executives. But really, all powers enjoyed by the prime minister and his cabinet ministers. Okay, it is the best experiment taken by the Constituent Assembly members, and they wrote in the Indian Constitution. And second one, federal government system. That is a federal system. That is federal system or federalism. Right. So federal system means already in the previous class we know that the word federal is derived from the Latin word foedus. Foedus means the agreement between the state and central governments. Right. So federal system, that is the central government and the state government. So what is the meaning of federal system? Federal system means that an agreement between the state government and central government on the powers. That is simply the distribution of powers between state and central. It is called federal government system. So India adopted the federal system, but not fully. Generally, America is the best example for federal government system. Find out what is the intelligence of Indian constituent members' ideologies. So the federal system completely followed by the America. First to see in America how they ruled. The American president have the full powers. He elected by the people directly in the elections for every 4 years. He have some assistants in administration that's called secretaries in the United States of America. So the president of America in America, he have full powers on Senate, on Congress, on House of Representatives. All powers in the hands of President of America. And second one, in America, the United States of America have the special constitution. At the remaining, the states also have special constitutions. Some of the states have special constitutions. The power, that means the administration distributed between central and states in America, 100% they followed the federal system. Every government are followed the constitution. America is followed the written constitution, and it is a rigid constitution also. So American government followed the federal system. In that there is a power distribution between state and central governments. Now come to the Indian governments. India is followed federal system, but the states have no powers. How like it is? State government, state list, central government, central list. And one more list also, that is concurrent list. So in the common time, the state government are made the laws on state list, like police, health, education, law and order, remaining what are the state government list. All the state governments, they made the laws. That means the assemblies can make the laws on state list. The central government made the laws on central list. That is clearly known as the federal government system. That means the powers distribution between state and central. But India not followed fully federal system. Only sometimes only it followed the federal system. In sometimes it followed the parliamentary system. That means, see, at the time of emergency, India became the unitary government. That means the state assemblies and the state CMs and state MLAs, MLCs, they have no powers to make any laws. The central government take the all government's powers and they made the laws by the parliament. The parliament can make the laws for the country at the time of emergencies. And second one, when the state governments are failure to set the government or to form the government in assemblies, that time also the central government can take action on the state government through the presidential rule according to the 356 article. And at the time of financial emergency time also, the central government take the actions on state governments. In common time, the central government take the actions and the central government can make the laws on central list. In common time, the state government, the state assemblies, the CMs of the state, they can make the laws on the state list. But at the time of emergency period, the central government can take all actions and all powers from the state governments. That is called Indian parliamentary system and Indian federal system. The constituent members, they adopted from American Constitution and Canadian Constitution as a federal system, and the parliamentary system from Britain. But here, what is the experiments did by the constituent assembly members, especially the drafting committee, and what is the explanation by the Baba Sahib Ambedkar to adopt these systems as a parliamentary system, as a federal system, as a unitary system, as a that is what we call federal system. So India is not followed the fully parliamentary form of government like Britain, and it is not follow the fully federal government system like USA. We adopt from these two countries and which are suitable for Indian government and which are suitable for Indian political system, that only we adapted from these two constitutions. Finally, the Indian government taken the system of parliamentary system from British government, and it is also taken the Canadian federal system and American federal system in the Constituent Assembly. That means they mentioned the powers distribution state and central as a federal system, and they mentioned the parliamentary form of government system. Finally, on the words of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, the Indian Constitution adopted the parliamentary form of government system. The federal system is only the nominal. Only at the time of common period only, India became the federal government, but not full time. That means 90% of the features, Indian government followed the parliamentary form of government system. The parliamentary form of government system, in the parliamentary form of government system, the prime minister and his council of ministers are the real executives because they elected by the people directly in the elections for every 5 years. The president of India is the head of the constitution and the first citizen of India and the head of the government. On the name of the president of India, every law is made by the parliament. So the 90%, mostly Indian government and Indian constitution adopted the parliamentary form of government system because this system is suitable for India to unite the Indian states and Indian governments. So what are the features of parliamentary form of government system? All powers vested in the hands of prime minister and his council of ministers. That means the parliament is the hero. The prime minister is the hero because in the democracy, the representatives who elected by the people, they're only the real heroes. That means the Lok Sabha members are elected by the people directly in the elections for every 5 years. The president, prime minister of India and the MPs of Lok Sabha members, they are enjoying the real powers because they have the majority in Lok Sabha and they are elected by the people directly in the election process through the universal identity franchise system, election system. The election system means it is the address of democracy. So India is followed the democratic system and India is followed the parliamentary form of government system. In the parliamentary form of government system, the representatives who elected by the people directly in the elections, they have only the powers. Only in some cases, at the time of emergency period, the president of India enjoys the powers and he is the caretaker of the Indian constitution and he can take the decisions on any bills at the time of emergency period or the. Okay, right. So in second one, the federal government system. In the federal form of government system, there is a distribution between the state and central according to the constitution. Special divisions for the political administration, that is the central government have the central list, the state government have the state list, and central and state government have the concurrent list. So it is the merger of parliamentary form of government system in India and presidential form of government system in India. Okay, and next. What are the important points in the constitution and how constitution has a social integrity? So Indian constitution as social engineering. Right. So constitution and social engineering. So the conditions in 1950s. So before the 1950s, what are the conditions in India? So already you know the history of Indian society, in Indian culture, Indian political economical conditions. During the British period, what is the political, economical and social conditions in India? And before the Britishers, what are the social and political economical conditions in India? Already we know that Indian society broadly divided into caste system. That means Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, remaining categories. So what are the social conditions in India? Before 1950s, after 1950s. Here you can find out what is the greatness of Indian Constitution and how it is made, and it is known as the social engineering. The Constituent Assembly members, how they think about the future of the Indian, what is the citizens. Right, okay. Before 1950s, we have so many caste systems. According to the caste system, there is a untouchabilities. See here, what are the social evils in our society? The first one, untouchability. Untouchabilities. So untouchability system is one of the social evil in our society. This society. So according to this system, there is no equalities in social status for remaining classes. That means inequalities in the society, not in income, in the social status. Now the Constituent Assembly members, they concentrate on how to eradicate these disabilities, how to eradicate this untouchability system from Indian society. Is it possible to eradicate from this system? No, it is not possible, because from thousands of years to, there is a root in the caste system in India. So that's why they try to reduce the social injustice, that is the social inequalities in the society. For that purpose, the Indian Constitution, they made the laws on untouchability system, that is abolition of caste system. Abolition of untouchability, that is caste untouchability. Abolition of untouchability. In the fundamental rights, Article 17 can explain about the untouchability is very. So already we wrote the fundamental rights. Every fundamental rights can use the protection for all people. So already we wrote in the preamble some noble words, that is justice, equality, liberty, fraternity, like these 4 words. So justice for all people, liberty of thoughts, expressions, equality of status, opportunities and pains, and fraternity among the all people. So the preamble and the noble aims of Indian Constitution, according to the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's objective resolution, we want to establish, build the social equalities in Indian society. For that purpose, the abolition of untouchability system in India. So abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability means if anyone can follow the untouchability system, either temples or in public places or whatever it is, they are under punishment. So it is one of the best example for Indian Constitution, how it can make a social engineering. And second one, reservations for suppressed and depressed classes for SC and STs. In employment, in education. Especially for which classes are not developed in Indian society. Here see, main concept is social equality. The main concept of Indian Constitution is to make the social equality, economical equality and political equality. So before 1950s, only some of the section people have right to vote. 10% of the people who were participated in the Constituent Assembly elections. Remaining 90% of the people are not participated directly in the election process. So when our Indian Constitution made by the Constituent Assembly, the constituent members are think about all these, what are the important social eradicated programs abolished in India. So in that, to create reservations, it is for social justice also. So the sections of the people, those who are the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes peoples, they have no what is the opportunities to develop in education, to develop in employment, and to develop in social status also. That's why the constituent members were strongly decided to give provisions for reservation category peoples. That's why they mentioned the reservations for some of the section people. Next, to introduce welfare programs. So to introduce welfare programs according to the directive principles of state policy. So if we want to eradicate the social injustice, social inequalities in society, we want to introduce some of these social welfare programs. The social welfare programs are guided by the directive principles of state policy. We received and we adapted some of the constitutions, especially from Irish constitutions. We adapted the directive principles of state policy. According to the directive principles of state policy, we followed the socialistic ideologies, we followed the Gandhian principles, we followed the liberal principles also. So we want to establish a socialistic society in India. We want to follow some socialistic ideas. So what are the socialistic ideas? That means partnership of laborers in the industries, workers in the industries, and to give the equal priority for male and female. That is equal status. One job, one salary. Equal status for male and female also. And give the opportunities for which are the depressed classes people also. So, and some of the welfare programs like giving pension programs, giving retirement pension programs, and giving the government opportunities for those who are the poor family background people. Like this, all social welfare programs were introduced by the directive principles of state policy. And we want to establish a equal society, and there is no inequalities between rich and poor. For that purpose, the constituent members, they introduce some of the social activities, that is social engineering activities. What are the social engineering activities? Like to eradicate the abolition of untouchability system, giving provisions for reservations for downtrodden people, for SC, STs. That is one of the social justice, and introducing the social welfare programs in the Indian society. So, and we have so many welfare programs and socialistic ideologies introduced by the Indian constituent members. So whatever it is, the Indian constitution is the final to make the laws by any parliament or assemblies, whatever it is. So all these programs were written by the constituent members with so many debates, so many discussions. So India want to adapt which type of system. India adapted which country's constitutional methods, and India adapted which type of government system, and India adapted democratic system or socialistic system. So all these systems were introduced by the constituent members, and it became the social engineering to create inequalities, injustice in the society. Maximum we want to following the constitution methods and constitutional following methods, constitutional system also. So constitution and social engineering means like this all. So now today, what is the Indian constitution? So already we know that Indian constitution is the biggest written constitution, and it is one of the experiments for all countries, democratic principles and socialistic principles, and it is successfully going to the biggest democratic country and the largest written constitution in the world also. So especially we saw that so many changes in Indian constitution, especially in 1970s, 1980s middle. So why the constitutional amendments were mostly happened in 1970s and 1980s? What is the reason? Once you observe that. Right. See, remaining also why how constitution and social engineering means point one, abolition of the untouchability system, introduction of reservations for SC, ST and other OBC categories, and introduction of welfare programs in the country according to the directive principles of state policy guidelines, and giving reservations in the MP seats, member of parliament and assemblies, that is legislature also, at present in the local self-government according to the 12th schedule and 11th schedule, 74th to 73rd constitutional amendment. The reservations were introduced by the state government in local self-government. For example, Gram Panchayati, Sarpanch, ward members, in that reservations for SC category, ST category, BC category, and fourth one, women category also. And next, MPTC seats, ZPTC seats, MLA seats, MP seats, like this on in the parliament seats, in the assembly seats, in the local self-government seats also. The government introduced reservations for separate categories, for separate persons also. If it is male or female, if it is reserved category or general category, like this. All these can support to the Indian constitution is a social engineering. And next. Like. So, constitution today, in that first line, most of the constitutional amendments were happened from 1970s to 1980s. In your textbook, you're given the constitution today, the mostly and important, according to in the page number 226, constitution today in 1970s and 80s, 1980s, 1981 and 90s. In between these years, there is so many constitutional amendment were happened. Especially Srimati Indira Gandhi worked as a Prime Minister of India. She did a lot of constitutional amendment through parliaments. So here question number one. Most of the constitutional amendment were held in 1980s to 1970s to 1980s. Because of in 1976, we saw so many changes in the constitution, especially in the preamble. In 1976, through 42nd constitutional amendment, in the preamble, we mentioned secular and socialistic. Secular and socialistic. The word secular and socialistic, secular and socialistic we mentioned in the Indian constitution in the preamble through 42nd constitutional amendment in 1976. At the same time in 1976, 1975, at the time of Srimati Indira Gandhi as a Prime Minister, she did a lot of changes in the constitution. Especially she gave the slogan Garibi Hatao. So Garibi Hatao means to eradicate poverty in Indian society. So we want to eradicate the poverty in the Indian society, we should follow the socialistic principles. Especially we want to introduce the welfare programs in the society. Before 1976, before also the government of India, that means so many prime ministers, they introduced the socialistic principles in India, like abolition of Jamindari system, nationalization of banks, nationalization of LIC, and abolition of private purse for princely states. Like this, all they were introduced. But especially at the time of 1976, at the time of Srimati Indira Gandhi, she mentioned two words in the preamble, that is a secular and socialistic. The socialistic society need in Indian society, because there is a lot of what is that? Lot of change, lot of differences between rich and poor. So to eradicate the rich and poorness, to eradicate income inequalities in the Indian society, we must introduce the socialistic principles. So already what are the socialistic principles? In 1970, in 1980s times, he nationalized 14 banks in India. And she introduced Garibi Hatao principles. Like especially abolition of privy purses for Jamindaris, privy purse for princely states also. And she reduced the powers of right to property also. So many conditions imposed on right to property. Okay, right. And so to introduce the socialistic principles in Indian government, in Indian society, she mentioned the socialistic word in the Indian preamble. And next to follow the India as a secularistic country. So there is no religious country for the nation. So all religions are equal before the law. All religions have the right to propagate their religion. Already we have right in India, fundamental rights according to the right to religion from 25 to 28 articles can explain about the right to religion. So the secularistic concept, the main concept is to respect all religious and to propagate all religious their matters. So this is also one of the social engineering in Indian societies. For example, the minority status religious people, they have right to establish their institutions. What are the related with their religion? For example, minority schools, minority status, minority schools have a minority society, minority commission. The minorities have rights to establish their educational institutions in a particular places. The minority religious people, they have right to propagate their religion also. And they have independent status to establishment of their culture and their religion also. So the minority people are protecting from majority people's, what is that, they're attacking also. That's why the constitution gives separate rights for minority commissions and minority people also. So secularistic concept to respect to all religious and to give the equal priority for all religious. There is no particular religion for the government. So these two words are mentioned in 1976 through 42nd Constitutional Amendment by Srimati Indira Gandhi to establishment of the socialistic society in India to eradicate the poverty in Indian society. At that time, she introduced so many socialistic ideologies like 20 principles of scheme, and before Jawaharlal Nehru programs, Jawahar Rozgar Yojana programs. Like these programs were made India like a socialistic country also. And next. So what are the important Indian society? That main from 1970s to 1980s, why Indian constitution face a lot of troubles and a lot of questions also. That means some of the democratic persons, they questioned if there is no constitution, what happened in India also. Because the parliament have rights to change any article, any section, any part, any schedule according to the constitutional amendment program. So the what is that? The question between parliament and constitution. In 1980s time, 1970s time, there is a lot of questions between parliament is powerful than constitution is the powerful. So the majority government were decided the parliament have right to change any article, any part, any schedule according to the constitutional amendment system. That's why the constitution is not powerful than the parliament. But in 1973, the Supreme Court given the judgment on the basic structure of the Indian Constitution through the Keshavananda Bharati case. Keshavananda Bharati case. Right. See, in 1973, there is a lot of constitutional amendment. There is a lot of what is that problems, lot of tensions, and lot of questions. Who is the powerful? Either parliament or constitution. Either parliament or constitution. The parliament members, that means the prime minister and the parliamentary members, they have right to change any constitutional points through the constitutional amendment. But through the Keshavanandi Bharati case, the Supreme Court given the judgment on the basic structure of the constitution. So the parliament have right to change any part of the constitution, but not change the basic structure. Sir, what is meant by basic structure? Basic structure means India is a sovereign country, India is a socialistic country, India is a secularistic country, India is a democratic country, India is a republican country. And the fundamental rights are very important for the nation. The central government have full powers, the state government have some nominal powers. The directive principles of state policies must for the social welfare programs and the federal characteristics of government is also one of the important basic structure. So this is the class today about the Indian Constitution and constitutional debates and how India is adopted the parliamentary form of government system, why it is suitable for Indian society, and why we are not adopted the presidential form of government system, and why we are not accept the American government system. And next, how India is follow the federal government system at the time of common period, and how we became it in the unitary government system at the time of emergency period. And what are the importance of fundamental rights in Indian society? All these fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Constitution. And finally, we have the process to change the constitution according to the constitutional method, according to 368 article. But the Constitution is permanent. It has the power, and Supreme Court are given the judgment. We are not changed to the basic structure of the Indian Constitution. So from 1946 to 1950, the Constitution was made by the Constituent Assembly. Here one more doubt, that is, sir, you said 1946 December 9th, the first meet held in the Constitution in Delhi, and the Constituent Assembly became the Parliament from 1947 to 1952. But the Indian Constitution completed in 1949, November 26th, that is yesterday, we celebrate the Constitutional Day. But why we stayed from 1949, November 26 to January 26, sir? What is the reason? Sir, you said the Constitution completed within 2 years, 11 months, 18 days. The final meet held in Delhi in 1949, November 26. But remaining November after December, December after, there is a January. Why we celebrate on January 26 as a Republic Day? The reason is, in 1923, January 26, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru introduced Objectives Resolution in Lahore Congress session. In Lahore Congress session, Nehru declares India want to Purna Swaraj. Purna Swaraj Divas. Purna Swaraj Divas we celebrate on January 26. From 1923 to, we celebrate every year as a Purna Swaraj Divas. For that purpose, and Nehru also introduced in 1946, December 13th, when the Constitution Assembly meets and started, what is the main aims of the Indian Constitution? He said the Objectives Resolution. According to Nehru's Objectives Resolution, India became the sovereign country, and India became the republican country. India became the democratic country, and it gives rights to all citizens. Like what he said, the guidelines of Nehru's Objectives Resolution, after 2 years also, it is the main basics of Indian Constitution. So Nehru said, every year we are celebrating the Swaraj Divas on January 26. That's why we want to wait for January 26, 1950s. According to Nehru views, according to Nehru ideas, most of the constituent members agreed, and we wait for January 26 from 1949 November 26 to 1950 January 26. According to sentimentally, from 1923 to 1923 to we are celebrating January 26 as a Purna Swaraj Divas. We are waiting for Purna Swaraj Divas after the completion of Constitution. So whatever it is, the Indian Constitution is the biggest, and it is very proud for us also, because here not only one nation, not only one language, not only one religion, not only one people. All types of people are living together. All types of people have rights. All types of people have safeguards. All types of people are protecting, and all types of people are securing by the Indian Constitution from 1950s to now. That means 71 years. We completed the Constitution preparation. Up to 71 years also, we are proudly and respectfully we obey the Indian Constitution, because it is not only for one nation, it is not only for one state, it is not only for one religion, one caste, one culture, one tradition. It is for Indian Constitution. That's why the constituent members, they wrote so many social engineering activities. They wrote so many points to integrate the national integration through Union Public Service Commission, single service, through single citizenship to create the national integration, through integrated judiciary system to create the integrated system. The Supreme Court is only the final. It is the ultimate court for any justice. The Supreme Court also followed the Constitution. So all these changes we are facing so many years to up to now, we are 100%. It is very suitable for Indian society, Indian people. We respect the Indian Constitution. We respect the Indian Constituent Assembly members' ideas and views. Salute to all the constituent members, those who have made the Indian Constitution for a long period of the generation also. Right. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon,
Sir.
everybody. Sir, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Or Veeru Babu sir, the lesson, Independent India's Constitution and third part, and he explained it very well and very effectively, and so many examples he used in explaining the lesson, and many hurdles he faced, and he coming to take the class in the rainy season, and very hard, and he trying very well. Thank you very much, Veeru Babu sir. A special thanks from Khammam and Suryapet social forums and conveners also, and this is very useful to our 10th class students, and your services are so grateful. Thank you very much, sir. Once again, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Okay, sir.
GCB and Suryapet and Communistics. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
all technical members, conveners, and those who are participating in the great event of the online classes for 10th class students.